Good morning, my dear students. Let us start with a question which will engulf our mind. And the question is, how are these drugs administered in human body? Obviously, all know that the drug is different from food because drug has a certain dose and drug is also have certain dosage forms. Those dosage forms are solid dosage forms. So those out of the solid dosage forms, you will see the powder, you can see tablets. You may see these tablets may be sublingual, dispersible, chewable tablets, enteric coated tablets. Beside this, there are pills, there are capsules, lozenges, suppositories. So these are all oral form of dosage form. Whereas the liquid dosage forms are aqueous solutions, the suspensions, that means the dispersion of insoluble drugs in water with the help of a suspending agent. One such example is emulsion, which is basically a uniform mixture of two immiscible liquids in which droplets of one are suspended in the other, usually with the help of an amphiphilic emulsifying agent. Milk is naturally occurring emulsion. So, if somebody asks you what name one suspension, you can say milk. Elixir, which is basically a hydroalcoholic solution of drugs. Usually, these kind of elixirs are uh, flavored by fruit extracts and syrups. They have higher concentration of sugar and they are thicker in consistency. There are certain drops, eye drop, nasal drop. So you have seen probably in your lifetime that somebody is taking this kind of drops. The lotions which you are applying during winter, there are some moisturizing lotion, there are some lotions like calamine which will give you a relief from pruritus, that means itching. There are injections. These are sterile solutions or suspensions in aqueous or oily medium for subcutaneous or mostly intramuscular administration. But sometimes this injectable form, can be applied for intravenous injections. Sometimes they are given for intraarterial injection. So these are different forms of liquid dosage form. And there are some semi-solid dosage form. Out of these, the very common are the creams, the ointments. It's a semi-solid greasy preparation. Cream is not that greasy. One is oil in water and the other one is water in oil. The paste, these are non-greasy preparation of thick consistency containing hydrophilic adhesive powders such as starch, prepared chalk, aluminium, magnesium hydroxide, zinc oxide. So these are the preparations of paste. And lastly, the gels. The gels are commonly applied in pimples. These things are incorporated in a viscous colloidal solution of gelatin or similar material and usually dispensed in collapsible tubes or compressible tubes. So most of these things, this cream, ointment, the gels, they are supplied in a compressible tube or a collapsible tube. There are some inhalation preparations where the drugs, which are gases or volatile liquids, are administered by inhalation and carried into air or oxygen with the help of a mouthpiece, face mask, sometimes with an endotracheal tube. So there are different drugs which we are taking help of this, like in case of asthma we are taking help of the rotahelers, where a portable device in which a capsule containing very fine powder of the drug is punctured during the actuation and the release particles. There are some simple meter-dose inhalers. There are some propellant which can also be called in some spin holders. So there are so many examples by which we can prepared our dosage form and we can apply it to a person. But I'm starting with the question that how are these drugs administered? That means you have all these preparations in your hand. You are spoiled for choices, probably for a particular disease. But are you capable of applying it on an individual? The answer is yes. And let's say in the next slide, what are the different routes by which we are actually suggesting or trying to apply this kind of agents. So, the first one which is being shown here is the inhaled form. Classically, we are dividing this route of drug administration into two types: the local route, where you will see the topical preparation, that means the cream, ointment, and all these things, and there are certain things like in the deeper tissue, certain deep areas that can be approached by using a syringe or needle, and the arterial supply. Once you are giving intra-arterial injection, it is basically, especially the contrast media in angiography, anti-cancer drugs sometimes are given. These are basically prescribed via oral route. Inhaled route is not that. Inhaled route is basically a systemic route. Now, once we are talking about systemic route, we are actually classifying it into two or three types. The oral route, which is basically a specific one, it has its own advantage and disadvantages. There are routes like this inhaled route, and there is a route called parenteral route. You can divide this parenteral route into two parts, par and enteral. Par means bypass, enteral means intestine. So you are bypassing the intestine route, and that's the reason why it is called parenteral route. And almost all the parenteral routes are injectable routes like intravascular, subcutaneous, intravenous routes. Now, the factors which are governing the choice of route are the physical and chemical properties of the drug, whether it's solid, liquid, or gas, whether the stable, whether the pH is okay, whether it's soluble or not, the site where you are applying it, are you applying it in the muscle bulk, or you are applying it in the mouth cavity. So on the basis of it, you will select the route of drug administration. Rate and extent of absorption of the drug from the different routes. Absorption is one of the most important aspect of pharmacokinetics. It's a part of ADME, ADME. So absorption will play a very key factor while choosing the route of drug administration. Effect of digestive juices and first pass metabolism on the drug. So here we'll discuss what is fast pass metabolism in few of my later lectures. At the moment, you just try to remember it is first pass metabolism and basically the effect of digestive juice. The accuracy of dosage and the inhalation that can provide fine tuning, the rapidly with which the response is desired, and ultimately the condition of the patient. If the patient is unconscious, patient is having severe vomiting, then you just can't go for oral route of drug administration. You have to change it and you have to go for some injectable preparation and specifically intravenous preparations. Now, as I said, the systemic routes can be classified into few types: oral, parenteral, and you can add sublingual in between this, or you can take sublingual within the oral one. Now, what are the limitations of oral route of drug administration? Oral route has its own advantages and disadvantages. It is safe, it is convenient, it does not require any assistance, non-invasive, and easily the patient will obviously comply with these preparations very easily. But the limitations are you cannot prescribe it in unconscious patients. It may cause nausea, vomiting. It may be unpalatable drug, so patient may refuse. The patient compliance may not be that good in that sense. Action of drugs may be slower. In emergency condition, it is difficult to prescribe. Absorption of the drug may be variable and erratic. It is depending on the nature of the drug. If it is water soluble, then probably it will become more erratic. The example is streptomycin. And others are destroyed by digestive juices. That means it has its relationship with not only your body fluid, but it has a relationship with food also. So those are the limitations of oral preparations. In case of inhalational preparation, you can directly reach that part. That means your target organ, if it is alveoli, you can directly reach there. So lesser amount is required, quicker action. So these are all advantages. Whereas the disadvantages are, and obviously the adverse drug reactions are going to be lesser because you are giving smaller quantity. The disadvantages are again the compliance sometimes is difficult. In the extreme of age group, is difficult for them to take the preparations in the proper way, and probably with the help of spacer device, and it's obviously costly. So once you give so many things for one preparation, it will become costlier uh, for an individual patient. So the cost effectiveness is definitely vary in case of inhalation layers. Otherwise, the inhalation preparations are good in comparison to the oral preparations. In case of selective few cases like bronchial asthma, COPD, like uh, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Now the next one is the parenteral route. And as I said, in case of parenteral route, we are talking about the subcutaneous and the intravascular one. Obviously, the intravenous one will come, but it will come later. Now, in parenteral route, conventionally parenteral refers to administration by injection, which takes the drug directly into the tissue fluid or blood without having to cross the enteral mucosa. The limitation of oral administrations are usually circumvented. The drug action is normally faster and surer. Gastric irritation, vomiting are usually not provoked. Parenteral routes can be employed even in unconscious, uncooperative, and vomiting patients. And what are the disadvantages? The disadvantages are the preparations has to be sterilized, it's costlier, technique is invasive, patient compliance is not good, sometimes it's painful. But there are some preparations which have to be taken, like insulin in case of diabetes. Self administration is also possible in some time. In case of subcutaneous injection, the drug is deposited in the loose subcutaneous tissue, which is richly supplied by nerves. So, irritant drugs cannot be injected, but it's less vascular, absorption is slower in comparison to intravascular. Only small volumes can be injected, self injection is possible. There are different preparations like Dermojet. In this method, needle is not used. A high velocity jet of drug solution is projected from a microfine orifice using a gun like implement. A pellet implantation, the drug in the form of a solid pellet is introduced with a trochlear and cannula. This provides a sustained release of a drug over weeks and months. So the example is testosterone. And another one is biodegradable implants, like uh, something like crystalline drug, which can be packed in tubes or capsules, so made of suitable. These are not injections in that sense, but can be given via subcutaneous route. This non-biodegradable implant has to be removed later, but not the biodegradable one. This has been tried for hormones and for contraceptives. Whereas the intramuscular one is the easiest one, and we have started trying it from the very second year onwards, and we will show you in our practical class how to give the intramuscular injection step by step in different process on mannequins. Now, the drug is injected in one of the large skeletal muscles like deltoid, triceps, gluteus maximus, rectus femoris. It is depending on the nature of the drug. Depot preparations, oily solutions, aqueous solutions can be injected by this route. The intramuscular injections, it should be avoided in anticoagulant treated patients because it can produce local hematoma. Perrectal preparations are given like a drug like diazepam, which is given perrectally with the help of a baby Braille's tube in case of benign febrile seizure. So that is another route which is comparatively safe, and one can apply this route for the benefit of the recipient of the patient. Mostly it is used in babies, and this one, the suppositories are also used via rectal route. Now we come to a comparatively newer drug delivery system, that is transdermal drug delivery system. It is looking like a topical preparation, but it is a transdermal therapeutic system. These are the devices which, in the form of adhesive patches of various size and shapes, it varies from 5 to 20 centimeters, which deliver the contained drug at a constant rate into systemic circulation via the stratum corneum. Stratum corneum is the dead tissue at the uppermost layer of the skin. Usually, the skin takes 28 days for regeneration. The drug in solution is basically bound to a polymer. It is held in a reservoir between an occlusive backing film and a rate controlling micropore membrane, the undersurface of which is smeared with the adhesive impregnated with priming dose of the drug. The adhesive layer is protected by another film that is to be peeled off just before application. The drug is delivered at the skin surface by diffusion for percutaneous absorption into circulation. Now, the micropore membrane in such that rate of drug delivery to skin surface is less than the slowest rate of absorption from the skin. This offsets any variation in the rate of absorption according to the properties of different sites, and as such the drug is delivered at a constant and a predictable rate irrespective of site of application. There are so many transdermal patches, like in case of angina you can use, angina means chest pain, angina pectoris, which means chest pain, where you can apply GTN, that means glyceryl trinitrate patch. You can use something like nicotine patch to overcome the addiction habit of cigarette smoking. Estradiol, which is estrogen patch, which is available in India, very commonly used by the female population in the developed countries to prevent osteoporosis, while those of the isosorbide dinitrate, hyoscine is placed on the mastoid process just behind your ear, so to prevent motion sickness, a kind of vomiting which is happening while traveling in sea or in a tricky road, so you may get a sense of nausea and vomiting. So these are the ways, the applications of transdermal patches. Local irritation and erythema may happen because there are some certain kind of gum and which are required to stick with your skin, but is generally mild and it is minimized by changing the site of application each time by rotation. And discontinuation, it can be necessary in only few percentages. Regarding the inhalational preparation, which I already told you, the volatile liquids and gases are normally given. Absorption takes place from the vast surface of alveoli. The action is very rapid. So that is the advantage of inhalational preparation. And when administration is discontinued, the drug diffuses back and rapidly eliminated in expired air. Thus, controlled administration is possible with moment to moment adjustment. And as I said, it is cost effective in comparison to oral medication. Obviously, it is difficult for extreme of age groups to, uh, I mean, accept this, but it is obviously having a better benefit ratio over the oral preparations, but cost is definitely going to be higher in comparison to the oral preparations. The sublingual preparations. The sublingual preparations are basically the buccal preparations. Those tablets like GTN, that means glycerol trinitrate, given in angina, containing the drug, it is placed under the tongue and crushed in the mouth, spread over the buccal mucosa. Only lipid soluble and non irritating drugs can be so administered that absorption is relatively rapid. Action can be produced in minutes, and this you can bypass the first pass metabolism. That is the thing, repeatedly I am saying first pass metabolism, and that I will explain in my lecture class. Though it is somewhat inconvenient, we can speed the drug after the desired effect has been obtained. The main advantage is the liver is bypassed and the drug with high fast metabolism can be absorbed directly into the systemic circulation. So, where you have a chest pain, you require a rapid action, you should prescribe your drug via sublingual route. Whereas the topical preparation, it refers to the external application of the drug in the localized action and often more convenient as well as reassuring to the patients. You can apply the steroid cream, the antifungal cream, uh, even the cream, those the Vaselines, those creams like Nivea, Pond's, all the cream forms, just the moisturizing cream for various purposes. There are some ointments like atropine ointment which can be prescribed in eye. These are all topical preparations. So these topical preparations are basically belonging to local route, which is different from the systemic route which I described previously. So the basic classification, local and systemic. Local means the topical, the deeper tissues and the arterial supply. In the systemic, there is oral, this is parectal, sublingual and the parenteral. Within parenteral, mainly there are three things: subcutaneous and intramuscular in one hand and intravenous. So I am going to conclude my presentation with the intravenous preparations. The drug is usually injected as a bolus dose. Usually the term bolus means lump. It's a Greek word, it means lump. Or it infused continuously over hours, and while prescribing this will show you two different types of curves. And once you place it in the vein, one of the superficial vein, the drug reaches directly into the bloodstream. It is going to be drained in the right side of the heart. From there it will reach lung. There it will undergo a little bit of fast metabolism, but mostly it is going into the circulation. So that is the reason why we are saying that intravenous preparation has 100% bioavailability, though a little bit of your metabolism is happening in the lung. The intima of the veins is insensitive and the drug gets diluted with blood. Therefore, even with a highly retained drug that can be injected by this method. Hazards of thrombophlebitis, and mostly in the injected veins, the necrosis of adjoining tissues if extravasation occurs, or these complications can be minimized by diluting the drug or injecting it into a running IV line. Now, only aqueous solutions, not suspensions, because drug particles can cause embolism, are to be injected IV, and there are no depot preparations for this kind of route. You can prescribe it for emergency condition in unconscious patients, the person who is having vomiting, but the disadvantage is if you have injected it, the chance of toxicity is higher because it is already mixed with blood. So it's unless you are going for dialysis, it's very difficult to remove that drug from the blood or separate the drug from blood. Now, one big advantage of this intravenous route is the case response is accurately measurable, and the drug is sometimes short acting like sodium nitroprusside. The titration of the drug with the response is also possible. This is one of the most risky procedure, risky route. It requires skill, it requires your concept before prescribing it to any individuals. So with this, I am concluding today's topic of routes, different routes of drug delivery system. Thank you so much.